Hey, welcome. My name is Aaron, and this is the Wedding Storyteller Podcast. Today, I have Patrick and Elena with me, and we're talking everything that has to do with building and creating a brand that's authentic to you within your business. So let's dive right in. Hey, welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. And today I've got Patrick and Elena from Shore and Summit, and we're going to be talking about branding, everything that has to do with branding within your business, and how they built a brand that attracts couples and attracts people in general. So, Patrick and Elena, how are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. You guys, man, I'm so glad you guys said yes. Like, one of the things that really caught my attention from you guys from Shore and Summit is just how well you guys have laid out a brand. I think not many people have done that well and consistently throughout your Instagram page, your website, and I think most importantly, it reflects exactly who you guys are. So can you give us a little bit of the backstory on who is Shore and Summit? Like, where did you guys come from? How did this all evolve? I would love to know.
Yeah. So as far as who is Shore and Summit, Elena is Shore. I am Summit. Our last name is Storytelling. No, that's wrong. But actually, whenever people ask, like, we've realized, like, Elena is the person who's happiest, like, when she is near the water, and I'm happiest when I'm, like, near or in the mountains. So that kind of just works perfectly. And then on our honeymoon, we actually got, without realizing it, we got coordinating tattoos. Hers had waves on it, and mine had mountains on it. And we're like, well, that's that. We're never changing our name. We're Shore and Summit, apparently. But you want to continue? Like,
I mean, you started this way back in the day, long before Shore and Summit was ever a twinkle.
That's right. Yeah, I went through multiple different names. So when it comes to branding, I definitely know all of the wrong ways to do it too, because I went through 3 different names and brands before I got it right with Shore and Summit. And we ultimately went to Shore and Summit when we were engaged. Like, okay, you know what? We're getting married. You're getting more serious about this, doing this with me, and it doesn't make sense for us to be under the name Patrick James Films, which was my previous brand name, my company name, and it being the both of us, that didn't work. So we decided to figure something out, and around that time, that's when a lot of other podcasts and other educational content had come out about branding. And we were just learning more about that, because before that, the reason why I made so many mistakes is because there wasn't just much out there talking about branding for wedding videographers or wedding professionals. It was just not really a lot of easy access to that. So, that's probably why I made so many mistakes back then. And this was winter of 2019 that we decided to make this switch. And at that time, How to Film Weddings was taking off. There were a lot of other podcasts and everything that were going off, and it's talking about branding and how to show up as yourself more. And we started taking that to heart, and we're like, all right, we want this to feel like us. We want this to feel like an extension of ourselves. We were hearing we were looking at all sorts of different company names, logos, all of these things. And we're like, alliteration seems to be a hot topic here. So once we landed on storytelling, which is something that we both appreciate, we wanted the names to have storytelling in it, because
that felt like the best description of who we were and what we did. We didn't vibe with media or productions or I don't know. And we were, at the time we were just video, but we were like, but what if it becomes something that's not just video? We wanted the open-endedness of having something that would be more all-encompassing. And so we landed on storytelling, and then from there kind of just
S words were it. S words.
So we literally tossed things around until finally Shore and Summit, and we looked at each other and we're like,
Yes.
I think that's
I
it.
think that took like 3 to 4 weeks to finally come out like with that name.
Hmm.
We spent a month looking for the right name for us. I mean, in that time we were also like building out a website without knowing our name either and on Squarespace and everything. But once we had that, we're like, all right, this feels right. We are those kind of adventure people, whether or not like we want to take a 10 mile hike or a 1 mile hike doesn't really matter, but or if we're city people or not, we just really like the adventure. We like the spontaneity. We like the stories that can come with it, and the memories. And that's kind of where our brand started to take off. That's kind of how Shore and Summit came to be. And since then, since late 2019, early 2020, we've just been developing that more and more over the last couple of years.
Wow. I love that. And so let me ask you a follow-up question to that. And we'll go back a little bit because I want to hit on like brand name and how that evolved and how long that took. So, segue into that is how long did it take you guys to figure out your brand? Like from the beginning stage, and how did it evolve? Not how, but how long did it take for it to evolve into Shore and Summit?
So like from the get go, like that's your story to tell.
Well, I started filming weddings in 2016, and it was late 2019 that we finally started to do this like legit together. So
As Shore and Summit.
as Shore and Summit. So it was about 3 years. I went through 3 different names. It was Bearded Media because like I was very proud of my beard at the time. It went to Infinite Media. That didn't last long either. And then Patrick James Films, that had a little bit more traction, and it could have easily stayed that way. But when Elena kind of came into the picture more and more and started showing this to be more serious, like they're like, all right, well, it can't be that. I was fine with that. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I've already changed my name 2 other times. Why not a third? But yeah,
Yeah.
it took about 3 years to finally get to Shore and Summit, to get to something
Wow.
that I'm proud of, that Elena's proud of, that we feel like embodies us.
Well, and even from like when we started as Shore and Summit to now, like the first website we built together on Squarespace versus where our branding and our site and all of that is now are like very different. And the level of what went into that was very different. Like taking a little bit of time to us, like slowly building our own website from scratch versus hiring a brand designer and hiring someone to do our website and all of that. It's a very different thing. So
Right.
we're a lot more proud of where it is today. Like even just earlier, we were watching one of the films from back, like in the very early or like right before Shore and Summit time. And I'm like, oh, wow. At the time, we were like really proud of that. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh boy, like
It was rough.
we've come a
Listen,
long way even since then.
I think we've all been there. Like, there's a film that I did a long time ago, and I was very proud of it, but it had an extra 0 as the date. So,
I believe I've seen this film.
I remember this
yes, you
one.
guys have seen this. That film will never see the light of day, and it's gonna stay there. And yeah, it's anyways. But anyways, yeah, like just the evolution of your brand and how it came to be. I love it because it again reflects exactly who you guys are. As people, like we've had the privilege to get to know you guys, get to hang out with you guys a little bit, and we honestly couldn't think of anyone that would be Shore and Summit other than you guys, right? Because like you guys really created and spoken into that brand as a whole, as individuals, and just people look for you guys, right? What
Yeah.
you said you guys hired somebody to design your website. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who are just starting out and they're like, man, I just don't have the money to do so, like to hire somebody to just come and build our brand and or expand on our brand or build our website or whatever. What are some things that you guys were like, man, there's no way that we can do this, or even if we can, it's worth investing into somebody who can put this in a way that can express exactly who we are as a brand?
Honestly, I think for us, I'm glad we didn't try to hire a professional right away. Like, I'm glad that we took the time to like initially build our website off a template and like do the work of figuring that out ourselves first, because it gave us time to really figure out what we really wanted. Like, I think if we would have hired someone right away in 2019 when we were still figuring things out, we wouldn't have landed with the brand that we have today, because I think we needed more time to figure out like what do we really want? Like what really matters to us? Like what are the stories that we want to tell? So I think if we would have jumped the gun and tried to hire a professional too soon, it almost would have done us a disservice, because if we would have
that time though, in that growing time, we got the language to be able to speak like as to what our brand is and what exactly that we wanted.
So then when we eventually did get to the point where we had the money and we had the time and we had like the capacity to hire someone, we were able to actually flush out and tell them what we wanted because we'd taken the time to learn it ourselves. But I think if you're just starting out, like get something that's a starter brand, like pay someone on Fiverr to make you a logo, but know that brand is so much more than just the logo and the colors. It's the totality of how something feels. Like it's the way you show up on a wedding day. It's what you're wearing. It's how you present yourselves. Like it's so much more than just, it is how things look, but it's more than that.
Yeah, it's what people say about you when you're not in the room even. It's like, wait,
That's
what do you
good,
guys know
yeah.
about Shore and Summit? What do you guys know about Patrick and Elena? Well, they're these people. And it's like, oh, cool. They sound like the perfect people for our wedding. I want to hire them.
Yeah. And I love that. When you guys show up on a wedding day, I already know what you guys are wearing or something similar to what you guys are wearing because that's Shore and Summit, right? And I think the consistency of the brand and the consistency of the language that you speak on your website and the language that you speak on in real life creates again just something that's attractive. So and I love that you hit on the point on, hey, you don't have to hire somebody right away because that could potentially be bad in a way, because you can have a bad brand, and exploring that and hiring somebody to just kind of bring that out, it's not necessarily something that you wanted, and if it changes then you got to hire that person or someone else again. So I love that you guys were able to build that brand and put it together in a way that's genuine to you guys. I know that when we started, our logo was not that great. Everything that we talked on our website wasn't awesome, but I'm glad that we evolved into where we're at now, because now we can speak into who we are and then hire somebody to come in and refine all of that. You guys create such an impact in your couples, and I love your Instagram stories. People talk about you guys, and you guys have testimonials of your couples like talking about you guys. And just like you said, what are people saying when you're not in the room, right? And they speak your brand. How do you get to that point from a videographer standpoint and creating an experience that fits your brand?
I mean, I think it's a process. Like, we didn't just arrive at the client experience that we have now. I think it's been a lot of trial and error, and it's been a lot of figuring out, like, oh, this worked really well. Or, hey, we really connected with these people. How do we find more people like them? Because it's been a slow process of getting to the point where we are now, where the weddings we show up to, they feel like us, and the people that we shoot their weddings, like they're people that we'd be friends with in real life.
Yeah. I mean, because when Shore and Summit started, we thought that our brand was adventure, elopements in the mountains, just the couple and us. And we were wrong about that. While that is very attractive to us and like we would love to do one, we learned more and more that it wasn't about the location and the intimacy. It was also more or less about the experience that our couples were having, the story that they wanted to tell and were excited to tell. And that could take you to so many more places rather than just the mountains. You could be at a country club. You could be at a resort, at like an all-inclusive resort in Jamaica. You could be in the backyard of your own home. So long as, like, we learned though that the experience and the story is what matters. So it doesn't really matter like where that location is. And yeah, there was a lot of trial and error in that because like Lana said, like, yeah, we could have a call with someone and be like, oh, they're so cool. They are our ideal couple. And past the wedding, where it's like, okay, well, that was a learning experience. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And we would adjust our processes. We'd adjust like our brand, how we talk to our couples accordingly, so that we could really identify like what exactly it is that we need to nail down and niche down.
Oh, that's so good. So when you guys, and this is obviously a process of trial and error in getting to a place of, I'm going to say failure, but not really, because you're in the process, right? But it's a way that you can, a place of growth, whether that's finding your ideal couple, whether that's finding your ideal, even yourself within your brand, right? So I know a lot of people are taking in every wedding that they can get their hands on. I've been there. I know you guys have been there. And how does that create space for you to find the right couples, or B, affect your brand overall?
I mean, I think for us at this point, we found that every wedding we do is great, but not every wedding we do is us. Not every wedding we do is a portfolio piece for us. It's still a beautiful heirloom for that couple, but it might not be the best representation of us that we want to show. So we're not necessarily going to be putting out publicly every wedding that we film. And that's okay, because what we're putting out is honestly marketing for our own brand. They have a beautiful piece of art that they'll cherish forever. But if it's not us, then we won't necessarily show it to everyone. And that's okay. Yeah. That's kind of been one big thing that we've, in our quest of finding a brand that feels the most us, that's been kind of our first step in getting more of the clients that we want and not having weddings that we have that just pay the bills.
It's showing what you want to shoot. It's really like, well, when we have a cool wedding, when we have one that like this one feels exactly like us, like we'll go above and beyond. Like we want to go above and beyond for all of our couples, obviously, but there are some of them where it's like, oh, you purchased a 6-minute film, but your story was so rich. You guys were amazing on the day, and we just fell in love with this, and this feels so much like us. It's going to turn into an 8 to 9 minute film. I'm currently working on one of those films right now where we were supposed to deliver a 6-minute film, and it's going to be about 9.5 minutes. And there is no dull moment in it, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want to give them all of this amazing stuff here. And I cannot wait to share this with people. I cannot wait to share this with our couple, to put it on our website, and to have more weddings like this.
But more than just like after the fact, I think it's also being preemptive in where we are now. We have the ability to say no.
Absolutely.
And if we get on a call with couples and we get off that call and we're like, that wasn't a good fit, then we tell them. And yeah, you can do that in a kind, polite way. But I still think that it's better for us to tell them instead of us doing their wedding and doing them a disservice, because there was probably someone else who could have done a better job for them.
Oh man, that is so good. It's so hard to turn down a couple, like in general. It's so hard, and especially if you're hungry for money, right?
True story.
When you have guilty, when you have your ideal couple because they have found your brand and they fell in love with who you guys are, right? Not the service of just doing a video, but the people, the wording about you guys. They get to know you guys. They get to fall in love with you. And I think that leads to finding some of your ideal clients and ideal couples and ideal locations. Because I don't like shooting at churches. So like we don't show any of that, right? And it hasn't attracted any of that. And I love what you said, like show what you want to shoot. If you're shooting barn weddings, you might attract barn weddings. If you're shooting beach weddings, and it depends. If you love them, go for it. I personally don't love them, so we don't have any of that. But we show some of these fun, amazing live band weddings, right? Like, because we love live bands. Like, I absolutely when a couple says, "Hey, we're gonna have a live band," I'm like, "Oh, that's like 90% already like in the books, right?"
We
Because who
love a live
doesn't love a
band.
live band? But show what you want to shoot. Now, with all of this, was there somebody or was there something that has inspired you guys? Is there a brand that you guys have been like, wow, they're doing it so well? Like you, let me ask this again. Have there been parts and pieces that you've picked up from other brands?
Yeah, absolutely.
And who are these brands?
Who are these brands? Oh my goodness. Man, a while ago, like I was so into, and I'm still very much into these guys. I know they're taking a different direction with their brand now, but White and Reverie, like always, just love their work and the films that they make and the stories that they tell. But also even now, like I I'm always watching whatever Henry Martin's is putting out, forestry films, films by Madeline. They're all doing just amazing work, telling very intimate, heartfelt stories, and some of them even like showing off some of the fun, like wild moments too, and being able to just like mesh the two things together. There's some people that I really look out for. Yeah.
Well, like I think initially when we were recreating, or not recreating, but like when we were rebranding as Shore and Summit, we did a lot of looking around at other people. But I think when we actually hired for our rebrand, we really tried not to, because I didn't want to be influenced of like, oh, I like this part of this person's site. Oh, I like this part of this. Like I really wanted what we created ourselves to feel as authentic to who we are and as creative and as original as it could be. I didn't want to be a carbon copy of anyone else.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's yeah. So, is there what about? So I know this is for video stuff, but what about like bigger brands? Has there anything that you guys have been like, huh? This is something that even though they're a totally different category on services or product, this has been something that we have absolutely loved about certain brands that we have applied to our own brand within our business.
I mean, I really think that it depends on what you're trying to do. Like, if you are trying to feel really high end, like, what does it feel like when you walk into a really high end hotel or a really high end restaurant? Like, when you have a brand that creates an experience that kind of can almost manipulate the way that you feel, I think that that's really powerful. I think that that's a sign that a brand is done really well. And for our brand, like we wanted the people that it speaks to like show up and feel at home. And we wanted them to feel comfortable and we wanted them to feel relaxed, because we're not high end, high strung kind of people. We're very much just like down to earth, relaxed kind of people. And that's how we wanted our brand to feel. So I think that's just that's something that I look for when I'm looking at other brands.
And I know with our brand and our couples that we attract, a lot of them, like when we hear their stories, they're talking about how they met at a party or at a bar or at work. And like, but their story is still so rich. You don't have to meet at like this country club. You don't have to meet at another wedding, which you can very well. And like, that's totally fine. But a lot of our couples, like, they're always having a good time. There's always something else to the story about the day that they met or what they were doing. And like, they were probably at like a brewery or at like a cool taco bar or something, hanging out with their friends, and the waitress stopped by and the guy gave her his number or something like that. And like those are the couples that we love. Is like ballsy, gutsy, like here for the moment kind of people. And we think like those kind of places is kind of a great reflection of our brand. Like, yeah, like what Lena said, and we're not like too high strung, like prim and proper kind of branding people. No, like we want to cater to the people who are choosing like experiences in those kind of places. Even just like, cool, let's go to a brewery, let's go to like a cool cocktail lounge, or let's go to the beach and have a cool fun time. Like we want to be able to hang out with our couples in those kind of places because those are also places that we go to. Those are the places that
Right.
we enjoy.
Yeah. And I love, so like you guys, I see you guys, and I 100% feel that. Like I know you guys are down to earth. Obviously we've met, but like even like looking through your Instagram, it's like, no, these guys are down to earth. They love going places. They love just enjoying life. You guys love hanging out with each other. That's another important one, right? Like people can relate and people can be like, "Oh, they're just like us." And also you guys are high end in your own market. And I love that. Like you guys are high end in the way that you deliver your films, obviously, like the way you color your films, the way that you guys create an experience for these people who are within that market. It's still a very thought of process, and you guys have crafted that really well. So I love that you guys get to leave a legacy with their films, and it's one thing that they'll never forget, right? And they'll remember Shore and Summit. They'll remember the experience with you guys. So I absolutely love that. So if if there's somebody out there that's like, I want to build a brand. I want to get to a point where I feel confident with my brand. I think that's another big one. Like we didn't feel confident for a long time, but for somebody who says, "Hey, I want to feel confident. I want to know what my brand is." What are some of these key steps that someone could take in order to A, start discovering their brand, or to get to a place where it's like, "Oh, I'm going to refine my brand." Either of those two.
Well, I know it takes time. It's not something that easily can just like you can't just like wake up one day and like, all right, it's time to start my brand redesign and I have all these ideas. Like if you've been in this for a long time, probably, but for someone who's like just starting out and really starting to take their brand seriously, I'd say it's a lot of like knowing yourself, being honest with yourself and who you are. What do you like? Where do you go for where do you go to have fun? What do you like to do for fun? If what would you say someone is saying about you when you're not in the room? Be nice about yourself too, and that too. But like really just like identify who you are, and because who you are is going to be the best reflection of your brand that you can have.
But I think at the same time, like you have to think about the clients that you want to serve. And for us, our clients look a lot like us and they relate to us in a way that we feel very much like them. And that was something that was really important to us. But not everyone wants that. Some people want to be working with high end clients that have planners and they don't necessarily interact with them a whole lot. And some people want to be working with clients that are really like party people or really, I don't know, specific kinds of people. And if there's something that you're like, ooh, I really want to like appeal to these people, then figure out what else appeals to those people and how can you make yourself and your brand feel like that. But if putting on something else that isn't you is what that requires, it's going to take a lot out of you because if you're having to show up in an inauthentic way, it's never going to feel completely real. So I think
Yeah.
that finding a brand that can be a happy place where you feel like yourself in it, but it also appeals to the clients you want to serve is kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think when okay, so I love when you said you've got to like yourself. Like there's so many things I don't personally like about myself, but if I'm authentic to who I am as a person, people are attracted to that. And even if it's not a popular thing, right? Like you get to really dive in and like pinpoint who these people are who are going to be inquiring with you. So I love that. And if you're starting out and you don't have a website, you've got to build a website. Like I think you have to. Like there's no, that's the only way that you're gonna get some clients to actually know you, to get to interact with you, and to get to just feel who you are as a person and get to know your brand a little bit more. Is there anything that I may have missed as far as like branding that you guys want to hit off? Because I think again, you guys are doing it so well. You guys are representing that so awesome. Listen, even with the shirts that you guys wear, like Patrick, that green shirt, that's your brand. I love it. Like that speaks who you guys are, right? Like I'm looking in the back of the room right now, and it's Short Summit. Like obviously there's a sign, but I think everything around there, like it speaks your brand. You guys are so authentic. You're living it out. That's so important. Like live out your brand, and you, just like you said, be you. Don't try to be someone else. It's so exhausting to try to be something that you're not. Like if we're not the fancy high end people, and if I try to be that, I'm just gonna lose it. Like because then I have to act all elegant, or I have to act all fancy pants, and that's just not me. Like I'm not fancy pants. I'm very rough around the edges, but people love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, is there anything else that I may have missed that you guys might want to hit on?
I mean, I really think that the biggest thing about branding is don't try to be everything to everyone. I think you, in trying to do that, are doing a disservice to yourself, because the reality is you're not for everyone, and you shouldn't have to be for everyone. And so work really hard at appealing to the people who you really want to serve and the stories that you want to tell. Because if those things like set your soul on fire, then you're never going to work a day in your life.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
if you're doing work that doesn't align with who you are and doesn't align with what you want to be doing, like it's going to feel like work. So it's a matter of not just like finding who you are, but it's finding the work that feels special and doesn't feel like work to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if that means it takes some time to do that, to really build that portfolio, to do those weddings that only you really want to do, and you have to get another job in the meantime, then do it. I heard David Reynosa say this a while ago. If he had to start over, like from scratch, or if he had to like go back in time and like tell him his young self like something, like it would be to like not just take every single wedding, focus on the ones that you really want to take, and get a part-time job in the meantime, because your brand is going to grow so much quicker and be much more authentic like a few years down the line, rather than just trying to take on everything, getting yourself swamped, eventually getting like depressed or whatever, and then just like getting that burnout when you're doing like what Elaine said, like when you're doing the weddings that you love to do, when you're doing things that feel like it's going to feel like you're not working a day in your life.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
like take
man.
the time to really focus on that, even if that means having to take a part-time job every once in a while to like make sure you're making the money to support yourself and your family.
That is so good. So, one last thing I want to say about that is be careful, like who you guys book. Like you're committing yourselves to 1 year, mostly 1 year of that person, right? And like that's 1 year that's going to cost you of that brand building. And when you get to that wedding, you're gonna be like, this is not me. Like this is just not me. You're doing yourself and them a disservice by not creating something like that. So I love all of those things that you guys talked about. Where, or actually not where, but I'm gonna tell you guys where to find Patrick and Elena. And you can find them on Instagram at Shore and Summit. Yes. Correct me,
Correct.
please. Okay, awesome. Or on their website at shortandsummit storytelling.com. I got that one right because I've got your website pulled up. They're awesome. Message them, like, they're down to earth. They love communicating with people. They love it, like,
Yeah, we do.
everything that has to do with filmmaking, everything that has to do with branding. Patrick loves music, so talk to him about that.
Yeah, dude.
And no, thank you guys so much for just hopping on. Is there anything that you guys are looking forward to this upcoming season or year?
We just know, like, each year we keep getting better and better couples. Like, our couples in the past have all been amazing, but like we just get more and more on fire every single year for what weddings we have coming up. We do have a lot of them up in Michigan this year because we had just moved down to South Carolina, so like a lot of our market was still in Michigan in that process of moving. So it's really cool to be able to like go up and see our family, especially during the really hot months in South Carolina. Yeah, we're just really excited to like experience all of that, like experience like what weddings in South Carolina will be like, but also like still be able to go up to Michigan where, like, you know, that home turf is.
And that could be a totally different podcast in and of itself, like traveling and moving to a different state in order, and like
Let's do it.
building that brand there. Like, oh man, don't even get me started. But you guys are obviously killing it. I love the content you guys are putting out. I love
you.
like just everything that you guys have done with your brand. It obviously fits who you guys are. When I think of Shore and Summit, I think of Patrick and Elena. I think of your films, the consistency of everything that you guys are doing. So go check them out. If you have not met them, you're missing out. They are doing awesome things. Thank you guys so much for just hopping on. This has been an awesome talk. And I feel like we just hit like the surface of branding. Like, there's so much on branding that can happen, but this was awesome. Thank you guys so much. You guys were incredible, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye.